Hi, my name is Phillip, and I am gay. I have always been gay for as long as I remember, and growing up, I had a lot of heavy media influence. And I suppose that after watching so much TV, after watching a lot of movies, I love my movies, after listening to a lot of music and immersing myself in a good amount of pop culture, it is safe to say that what I saw influenced who I am today. One major and prominent notion that struck me hard while growing up was that the media's portrayal of the LGBT community perpetuates the gay stereotype, and that is the main claim that I would like to prove today. To support it, I have 3 supporting claims. My first one is that mass media purposely excluded the LGBT community in the past. My second claim is that LGBT characters did not leave lasting impressions on the audiences. And my third claim is that modern TV shows portray the same kinds of LGBT characters. I would like to start by defining both media and the gay stereotype. Media involves any form of mass communication, including but not limited to broadcasting, publishing, and the internet. And the gay stereotype involves any preconceived notion regarding the LGBT community. Might it be representative of a few or many? It's all up to whatever that notion is. So my first claim is that mass media purposely excluded the LGBT community in the past. In the 1930s, some of you might have heard the Motion Picture Production Code, which had set strict laws over what can and cannot be seen on television. This had lasted between the years of 1934 and 1954, and it censored explicit homosexual and homoerotic material. However, highly sanitized comedic episodes involving highly effeminate men or cross-dressing men, such as Cary Grant's character in Brain Up Baby, were allowed. And this perpetuates the gay stereotype because we only see 2 types of gay men with this long span of time. We see the effeminate archetype and the cross-dressing archetype. And this law still resonates deeply today as we see characters such as Kurt from Glee, who is highly effeminate, has a high-pitched voice, walks around with a limp wrist, sometimes wears female clothes, and the character Edna Turnblad from the 2008 rendition of Hairspray, who was played by John Travolta, who obviously cross-dressed. My next point is that as media continues to develop, we see more inclusion. My supporting claim for this is that LGBT characters did not leave lasting impressions on their audiences. A study was conducted in 2001 by the University of Minnesota, Columbia, and it asked college students to select a memorable gay or lesbian character in a TV show or movie. Over 2/3 of the participants selected Ellen DeGeneres from her TV show Ellen, or Will from the show Will and Grace. This study suggested that a small number of exemplars have a disproportionate amount of influence over their audiences. In other words, only a very select few out of the wide array of LGBT characters that existed at the time had a substantial impact on the TV viewers. And this perpetuates the gay stereotype because suddenly the representation of an entire community of people lies in the hands of the select few that are memorable to the audiences. With this very limited amount of influence comes a very, very narrow perception of what it means to be gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. And even up to this day, this leads on to my last supporting claim, modern TV shows portray the same kinds of LGBT characters. More specifically, we continuously see LGBT characters that reflect their own stereotypes. To list a few, and some of you might actually watch these shows or know these characters, we have Connor Walsh from How to Get Away with Murder, whose success has been attributed to his sexual proficiency. Patrick, Dom, and Augustine from the HBO show Looking, who serve as the 3 protagonists who are mostly consumed by their sex lives and body counts. Sophia Bursett from Orange is the New Black, who is a transgender woman who has been incarcerated for credit fraud to support her transitioning process. And Emily Fields from Pretty Little Liars, who is constantly moving from one relationship to another and heavily participates in sports. Alfred P. Kielwasser and Michelle A. Wolf are professors from San Francisco State University who study media theory and research. They assert the sense of problematic nature in these characters by saying this: members of the LGBT community who do not have first-hand role models to identify with turn to the mass media to model their self-concept and behavior, further perpetuating these stereotypes, many of which are negative. And with this said, it grows more and more clear why these stereotypes only continue to grow more prominent. Suddenly, young gay boys are being taught that being scandalous, sassy, and sexy is an essential component to their homosexual personality, and that young lesbian girls think that they have to be masculine or sporty to properly fit the fact that they are attracted to other girls. So, from early beginnings of mass media to the common TV shows that I'm pretty sure a lot of you watch today, it is easy to think that we have come a long way since the 1930s. However, after exploring the timeline of these shows and how little the expansion of these personalities have come, I hope you can all see how media's portrayal of the LGBT community perpetuates the gay stereotype. Thank you.
All right, Philip, the proposition's nicely described. There's a very clear preview. The language of it also helps explain the argument as you go along. I thought that was fine. I'm not exactly sure about the degree of controversy on this. It sounds to me like the argument exists because people have suggested that at one time that there wasn't any representation, and then that the representation that they got was just the stereotypical, and it is not, as a result, addressed those particular issues. I do think there's an assumption built in here that there is a variety of behavior in the LGBT community that is not being represented, and I think that's maybe a point that you ought to have in your speech. In other words, you're saying that these are stereotypes and that they don't accurately reflect the community, and I'm going, okay, show me that they don't accurately reflect the community. Give me a little bit of evidence. I'm inclined to believe that, but I think that that's part of the argument that's maybe missing from your presentation. I thought you did a good job citing the structure of the speech and the body of the speech, and you usually explain concepts pretty well. The problem with Ellen and Will from Will and Grace as role models, I think, is a little bit uncertain. Will and Grace is one of those shows that I actually do know. The other ones I haven't seen. But didn't they have a range of gay characters portrayed in that show? And that's one of the things that would pop into my head. That example seems to go contrary to the position that you're talking about, because the two main gay characters in that show seemed like they were polar opposites. One was, flamboyant, fitting the stereotype kind of thing, and the other wasn't particularly. So I'm not sure that is necessarily illustrative of the point that you're trying to make there. I think you have other examples that you showed that were probably much more in line with the argument that you're talking about. But that's the example that they cited, and I do think that that's the point of your argument there, was that they had a very narrow choice of people to identify with, at least in that time period. Let's see. I thought you did a good job citing the sources for the most part, and sometimes the academic research is interesting. The degree to which it actually supports the positions that it's talking about, I think there needs to be additional follow-up research, and I don't know. I'm sure that there's a lot of material on this in this field, because this is one of those places where there's, in the last 10 or 15 years, there's been substantial growth in research on this. So it just seems like maybe a little bit more on that last point, but the evidence was solid, and I thought you explained it pretty well. All right, thank you.